And I'm going to switch to English because she's from California. Her name is Ashley, and she was diagnosed with MS. Where is she? Oh, there she is. Sorry, come on the stage. And I've written it down on a piece of paper because I couldn't remember your job title. Holistic nutritionist, pharmacist, plant-based chef.
All those things, yes.
All of those things.
Yeah.
Well, I'm really curious what you're going to tell us. Enjoy.
Okay, thank you. Hi, everyone. I'm really excited to be here with you this evening. This one? Thank you. Let me briefly introduce myself. So my name is Ashley, which you just heard. I'm from Canada. California is way more exciting, so you can believe that if you want, but I'm from Canada. And I would consider myself, first and foremost, a food lover, like many of you here this evening. I'm also a pharmacist, a holistic nutritionist, a plant-based chef, and a health and food blogger. And I'm here this evening to tell you my story and my perspective, both personally and professionally, on how food relates to health. So, first, we can all agree that we're all very different. There are different things that make us unique, like our beliefs, our goals, our political views. 2016 and recent events throughout the world have definitely proven to us that we have major differences. But I still believe that we have much more in common than we think. And one shared aspiration among people all over the world, including every single one of us in this room, is that we all desire health. But today, being healthy, especially when we're talking about food and diet, it's never been so confusing. Every other day, there's a new superfood or healthy diet that we should be following. So tonight, what I'm going to do is clear through some of that confusion and break healthy eating down into two key principles. But first, I want you, just for a second, to imagine that there is a brand new revolutionary drug that's just hit the market. And this new drug, unlike any other drug before, can significantly reduce your risk of preventable chronic diseases like heart disease, which I know was just talked about, type 2 diabetes, and even cancer. The rates of these diseases are increasing every year. They're a major cause of death and disability all around the world, and they account for most of our healthcare spending. So this new drug can not only prevent these diseases, but it could also help reverse them if you already have them. And I know that was talked about in the previous presentation as well. So this new drug would clearly be labeled a medical breakthrough. And let me stretch your imagination even a little further. Let's pretend that this new drug has no unwanted side effects. In fact, it only has positive side effects, like increased energy, weight loss, improved mood. And probably the most unbelievable thing and the most exciting is that this new drug is available to all of us in pretty much unlimited quantities, and it's basically free. So this would be a miracle drug, and the world as we know it would never be the same. And you're probably thinking, this is obviously too good to be true, and this is an analogy. And you're right, this is way too good to be true, because as a pharmacist, I can confirm that there is no such prescription. If there were, it would line pharmacy shelves. It would put all or most pharmaceutical companies out of business, and it would probably cost more than most of us here could afford. But I want you to hold your skepticism, because this drug might not exist, but this remedy does. And it doesn't come from a pill bottle, but from the produce aisle in your grocery store. So what I'm talking about is a whole foods plant-based diet. So I've been following a plant-based diet for about 6 years, and I didn't wake up one morning 6 years ago and decide that I wanted to be health conscious. I had to learn about the connection between food and health the hard way, and that started in 2008. To be more specific, it was Valentine's Day 2008. So on this Valentine's Day, I received the worst, least romantic gift of all time, because that's the day that I was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis. So for those of you who aren't familiar, multiple sclerosis is a chronic neurological autoimmune disease, which means my immune system accidentally attacks the nervous tissue in my brain and spinal cord. And MS is usually a progressive disease, and it can also lead to disability. So I was 23 years old on that Valentine's Day. And I just graduated university, and I was in the first year of my pharmacy career. And then all of a sudden, I was handed this chronic diagnosis, this progressive diagnosis, and I was terrified that the best part of my life had already passed me by, and that from here on out, I would be defined by this disease. So it took days, weeks, months, even years before I could come to terms with having MS. And I struggled with depression and fear of the unknown. But when I had finally accepted the disease, I realized that I had to have some say in how this disease was going to affect my life. I wasn't satisfied just taking medication and hoping for the best. And I really wanted to be in the driver's seat of my health, and I wanted to, as much as possible, steer my health in the right direction. So I did a lot of research. And what I discovered truly blew me away, and I feel like I uncovered the best kept secret in healthcare. And that secret is that food is medicine. And you've heard this before, and I had heard this a million times before, but I really took it for granted, because it wasn't until I started to evaluate my diet that I realized I wasn't giving my body what it needed to function properly, let alone prevent disease. And even though I thought that I was eating healthy, I really wasn't. I was eating salads. So as this truth sank in, I gradually, one step at a time, started to change my diet. And as I was making these changes in my personal life, they inevitably ended up spilling over into my professional life. So to make a long story short, I left my job as a pharmacist at the hospital where I was working. I studied to become a holistic nutritionist, and then I moved to New York City to train as a plant-based chef. And what I learned through all of that is my passion and my purpose is to show other people how beneficial a plant-based diet is, and I would go as far as saying how revolutionary a plant-based diet is. I believe that I have a very unique perspective on healthcare. As my career has shifted from pharmacy to nutrition to culinary arts, I've had the opportunity to work with all kinds of people, both in the traditional medical healthcare setting as well as the alternative holistic healthcare setting. And I believe both approaches to health are beneficial and essential. But what I've learned from working with all of these people is that it doesn't matter what our individual health goals are, whether it be weight loss or stabilizing blood pressure, diet and lifestyle have to be a part of the solution. And what I know for sure is that the truest way to long-lasting health is through the foods that we eat. But knowing that and implementing that are two very different things. Because as I said before, today eating healthy is so confusing. We have vegan, paleo, vegetarian, macrobiotic, high fat, low fat, all fruit, no fruit. It's overwhelming, and I believe the scientific complexities behind all of these different nutritional issues is clouding the main message. So I want to clear the confusion and deliver that message loud and clear. And that is that behind every healthy diet, there are two fundamental principles. And the first is to encourage plants and plant-based food, or discourage or completely eliminate processed foods. And the first principle, to increase plant-based foods, essentially refers to eating vegetables, fruits, nuts, grains, whole beans, seeds, and these are the foods that the girls from the Green Happiness make their delicious recipes with. And these are the foods that provide fiber, vitamins, minerals, antioxidants, the things that we need to have a healthy diet. And science has proven over and over again that a diet that's lacking in fresh produce, so vegetables and fruits, is at an increased risk of chronic disease and malnutrition and weight gain and poor health. The second principle, to decrease or completely eliminate processed foods, essentially means taking the foods out of your diet that come in a box, that have a label that looks more like a science project, or foods that were made in a plant versus coming from a plant. And if we can do this, we automatically eliminate artificial ingredients, processed flours, refined sugars, inflammatory fats, preservatives, because these things aren't really food. And I thought this would be a great opportunity to actually reference the definition of food. So according to Oxford's dictionary, food is any nutritious substance that people eat or drink in order to maintain life and growth. And I think that we'd all agree that there are many foods in our grocery stores, in our cupboards at home, that don't fit this definition. So foods that aren't nutritious, nor are they necessary for life and growth. And this applies to all diets. So we can say that we're vegan, but if our vegan diet is still solely based on processed foods, it's still an unhealthy one. So it's simple. We need to increase the real food and decrease the fake food. And this way of eating isn't the latest health trend, it's not the latest hashtag, it's here to stay, and it is the most health supportive way of eating for the majority of us. And the more we spread this message, the sooner we can move away from chronic disease and illness and begin to phase out so much of the negativity that's brought into our lives through the foods that we eat. The bottom line is, we are what we eat. So let's choose nutritious, colorful, vibrant, health-supportive foods as opposed to processed, unhealthy, lifeless foods. And with people like Meryl and Tessa, as positive influences, this is going to be much easier for all of us. So my call to action to all of you is to go out and claim your miracle drug, because it does exist and it's not a figment of your imagination after all. And I want to thank you very much for asking me to be a part of this amazing conversation.